Okay, so Olivia, throughout this broadcast, we've been talking about an anticipated phone call between President Trump and President Putin of Russia. We understand that call has just happened, so I have to ask you about it. The president just posted on Truth Social just moments ago a little bit of what was said. He says, "I have just concluded my telephone conversation with President Vladimir Putin of Russia, and it was very productive." President Putin says President Trump congratulated me and the United States on the great accomplishment of peace in the Middle East, something that he said has been dreamed of for centuries. I actually believe that he said that the success in the Middle East will help in our negotiation in attaining an end to the war with Russia and Ukraine. President Putin thanked the First Lady Melania for her involvement with children. He was very appreciative and said that this will continue. Now, this is a big headline coming out of the president's post there on Truth Social. He goes on to say, "We also spent a great deal of time talking about trade between Russia and the United States when the war with Ukraine is over. At the conclusion of the call, we agreed that there will be a meeting of our high-level advisors next week." The United States, he says, is very invested in this. Initial meetings will be led by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, together with various other people to be designated, and a meeting location is to be determined. Now, President Putin says President Trump, the two of them will then meet in an agreed-upon location, which will be either Budapest, Hungary, or elsewhere, to see if we can bring this inglorious war between Russia and Ukraine to an end. President Zelensky and I will be meeting tomorrow in the Oval Office, where we will discuss my conversation with President Putin and much more. President Trump concludes by saying, "I believe great progress was made with today's telephone conversation." Now, let's think about this. President Trump has already met, in fact, on U.S. soil in Alaska with Mr. Putin. Mr. Zelensky said President Trump got played. How are you reading this?
Yes, I think it's notable that President Putin did choose today to bend President Trump's ear, and it sounds like he hit a lot of notes that he know register with the president. A lot of flattery, it sounds like, for achieving that deal in the Middle East, mentioning the First Lady's efforts. It sounds like he's also dangling business prospects with the United States, which we know the president is encouraged by, and this prospect that they could make some progress in ending the war in Ukraine, which has been the most elusive goal now for President Trump. Of course, it's notable that it's coming the day before President Zelensky travels to Washington to meet in person with the president. As we know, the U.S. has leaned in to helping Ukraine strike targets within Russia, deep within Russia, that have actually taken a significant toll on some of its energy infrastructure. The main question is whether this is, again, Vladimir Putin now 2 months out of that Alaska meeting that you mentioned, having had 2 extra months to wage his war in Ukraine, whether this meeting actually leads to some material diplomatic outcome, most notably a trilateral meeting between himself, President Trump, and President Zelensky. We know that's what President Trump has been after. That indeed would be a material outcome, but if it's not, then it is Vladimir Putin successfully buying more time for himself.
All right, Olivia Goss, so much to report there. Thank you so much for being right there with all of these late-breaking developments.